Welcome back to SJU on Fandom Entertainment. After 4 years of being here, the higher-ups finally thought that I could host the show, and we are here to prove them wrong. Yes, that is right. Sitting next to me, Joe Starr, as always.
I'm so excited for your probation.
You just throw the peace sign?
That's what I do. Do you even pay attention to me on this show, Rox?
I do. Okay. I know that you say to her. That's enough to know that he does this show.
Yep.
And welcoming back to the studio from Why We Love Star Wars, it is Ken Napzok. Hi, Ken.
Hey, Roxy.
Did you know I was going to do it?
I knew we have to do that. The fans want us to do that.
It's a bit.
It's a thing.
You only want to do it because the fans want us to do it?
No, I want to do it because I'm happy to be on air with you again.
See, that would have been a nicer thing to say at first.
I know, I'm learning to be less grumpy.
It's working. At least you're like smiling while you're being grumpy.
You've got a sick beard coming in, too. I like this.
You remember the old Kids in the Hall sketch where Kevin McDonald goes on vacation, grows a beard, and can't shave it because the beard takes over his life?
Yes.
This is starting to happen to me.
Cool.
It is just going and going. I don't know what's going on.
Are you buying, like, ointments and stuff?
No, I do wash it every day like a
Ointments?
gentleman, Joe, but
Balms.
no.
Okay.
Balms, thank you.
And ointments, like if there's a problem.
A salve from a wound.
That voice right there suggesting ointment bombs from El Rey Nation. It's Vanessa Gritton. Welcome, Vanessa. I'm not used to these ointment bombs. Would you like to further describe?
Beard balm.
I only for my beard, I only use Neosporin.
Are you being serious?
No.
That
That'd be awful.
Wait, you guys have special things that you have to buy for your beards?
Yeah, it's like balm.
It's hair, Roxy. This is so you treat your hair, right? So
I curl it. I don't.
Yeah.
I curl my beard.
Balm it.
It's like pomade for your face.
Exactly. If I don't wash this beard every day, it smells like Del Taco after 2 days. JT, shout out to the best fast food burger in the business.
And fish taco.
We did a lot of fast food talk this morning. It's a little early for fast food
I'm
talk.
starving and cranky now because of it.
What's with all the crankiness? We have a great show
'Cause I
for you
wanna go
guys
to
today.
Wendy's.
No, you can go to Wendy's after. It's like, what time is it? 11 in the morning? It will still be open until all hours of the night.
Yeah.
But today we're actually not talking about Wendy's, although I'm sure it will creep into the conversation at least 10 more times. We're talking about Batman because it is going to be the 30th anniversary of Batman. Not today, but in 2 days, on June 23rd, that will be marking the 30th anniversary of the release of the Tim Burton 1989 Batman, something that I'm excited to hear all of your opinions on, because people's opinions on this movie have seemed to change over time. It played, obviously, a very essential role in bringing us the modern comic book movie era that we are currently living in. So I just want to hear from you guys, because I dropped a bomb before the show that Ken did not really like. I was still in the womb when this movie came out. I was not on this planet yet, and so I can't tell you guys about seeing this in theaters. But I'm assuming, Ken, in theaters or at home?
Oh, very much.
Okay.
I was not upset that you weren't alive. That I just was upset that this is gray in my beard. Yeah, I was there. Opening night, junior high, Friday night. All of us went on out. Dick Tracy and Batman. That was what the summer was all about.
Ooh.
Wow.
That was a
And-
mere concept at the time.
Concept art in a book to be released.
And boy, did the project come out good. Way to go, girl. How about you, Joe? When did you first see this?
SJU, where Ken and I just embrace the people that are going to replace us very, very soon.
Pound it, Vanessa. Yeah. We're coming for you. I'm hosting the show now, Joe, and nailing it so far.
You are.
Yeah,
Look,
doing
we this is what survival on the internet's all about. Is evolution, baby.
It's going forward, man.
Do you remember though? Do you remember
Female
the first
hosts
time?
eat man, inherit the earth.
Like pack women.
Yep.
We're coming for you.
With bows.
What is the first time you saw this? Do you have any recollection at all?
I don't. You know what's weird? The first movie I remember seeing in the theater is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And before that, I know I saw lots of movies, but I don't have any recollection of like seeing them in the theater. But I do love this movie. I had the VHS. I had a beat to hell VHS copy
Me
of
too.
this that I watched all the time. I had the cereal. That's actually my biggest Batman '89 memory is the cereal. It came with a bat logo shaped bowl that was like cellophaned in with the box, which I'm sure the men and women working hard at Kroger loved to stock on the shelf, because that really kind of threw off the standard cereal box shape.
Tell me you have the bowl still.
I don't have the bowl
Oh,
still.
you got to work on your hoarder tendencies.
I know. But yeah, it tasted a little bit like if Captain Crunch had watched his parents die in front of him.
Yum.
Sad,
Yep.
sad
That's what it tasted
referencing,
like.
especially
That's what it
regarding
tasted like.
Batman. That's a very sad way to think about it. Vanessa, do you remember the first time you watched this?
Yeah, again, not theaters, but I had a VHS that I watched over and over and over again. And it was mostly because my brothers had it and they said I couldn't, which made me need it more.
Yep.
Why did they say you couldn't?
I don't know. There was like 4 of them and they had a tendency to like hoard things away from me, and that was one of them. And the fact that they were like,
Hoarding.
you can't have this, it was like, now I need it more. And I remembered reading the comics as a kid and then actually seeing it become a thing blew my mind, because it was, even now still, when I compare Batman 89 to a lot of other comic book movies, it was one of the best examples of not looking at the source material and thinking that you're above it. Because I feel like a lot of comic book movies, even after Batman 89, would look at the source material and be like, well, that's a silly concept. And it didn't at any point say this was a silly concept. It was unflinching. And it set a gold standard for me for looking at the source material and actually loving it.
Do you guys feel like that gold standard held up over the years? Now that we have had, I can't even count how many movies we've had that have been superhero movies that have surpassed everybody's expectations.
Yeah.
But this being one of the first to do so, do you feel like that gold standard is still there, or do you think that it didn't quite hold up as well as we thought it would at the time?
I think this is an interesting one for that conversation, because the modern comic book era, and I like Marvel movies quite a bit, but there's like a stamp now that's like, this is what a comic book movie is and isn't. And I think Tim Burton's entries into the Batman universe are a wonderful example of not just unflinchingly loving your source material, but also still a director being able to make the movie that he wants to make. So I think a lot of people love 89. They love Returns, like me. Batman Returns is the best Batman movie. Catwoman's the best Batman villain. Fight me.
Is that really what you think?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have to break that down a little bit.
We'll
but yeah.
battle. We'll
Okay.
battle.
Okay.
But I also think there's a lot of people who go, that's not Batman, which, one, I take issue with, because Batman changes wildly depending on who you're reading. Scott Snyder's Batman is not Frank Miller's Batman, and those are two of the, I think, quintessential Batman writers in comics. So,
do you prefer when people say that's not my Batman? Does that help because they're saying that it's not the one that they...
You know, I don't even like that necessarily, because normally they're also just, even if they qualify it, they're still yelling it violently at you. So
I feel that.
I think if it's peacefully said,
Yeah.
sure.
Because, like, for me, Batman is, like, almost Bond in that, which is your, like, which is the era that you looked at and loved the most. And it's not, for me, it's not, oh, this one's clearly better than the other ones. It's which one clicked with me. Like, everyone has a different Bond. Mine's Roger Moore. Some people, it might be, I don't know.
Timothy Dalton, all day.
Exactly.
All day.
And it's the same thing with Batman. It's looking at every single Batman that exists and be like, which one's yours? And it's great because it's almost more accurate than a horoscope when it comes to figuring out what someone's like.
Are none of you guys dying about JT? What are you eating in there that is so loud? Oh, it's a Gatorade.
Actually, I think it's Powerade. Let's get the
I
brands
usually
right.
just try to shut it out.
Vanessa's just so eloquently speaking about Batman and why, and then all I'm hearing is like...
Look, man, I was here when that booth was built, and we could not afford soundproofing.
So here we are today. Ken, what do you think in terms of holding up?
I think it does hold up. I also think at times it doesn't hold up. But I use this example. I'm one of those passionate Beatle fans, and a younger. And I don't mean this isn't a finger wag at younger people, but it's like it sounds like it was made in the '60s, right? So we've grown past a lot of it, but you can't deny that they established what you do as rock stars. They established what you do, but even they created putting lyrics on albums. That's something they did first. So you still hold it up, and that's what Batman is for me. It was something brand new, like, oh my God, comic books. You mentioned the love of comic. I'm not a superhero comic book fan. I grew up reading other comic books, but even I was like, you couldn't escape it. And what you're saying is right. It is Tim Burton's vision, and Schumacher came with his. We can talk about that later.
Oh yeah.
And there are things I've heard of directors walking on set on MCU movies going, I'm the least busy I've ever been because I show up and it's all done for me.
It's directing traffic.
And yes, directing traffic. And this
still is a job.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure is one of my favorite movies, and it's because it's so real but so imagined. And it's this like, hey, that's a street in Pasadena. There's also a bike with things going on. Like Tim Burton brought that to this, and I think so that makes it the standard to me.
So not as much the movie, but just looking at Keaton, do you guys feel that his Batman, his version, holds up?
As someone who remembers going, Mr. Mom's going to be Batman, absolutely, it works for me. It again, I think you're right.
And it's Bruce Wayne.
It's Bruce Wayne, and you're right. Batman's like I love Bale, I love the Nolan Batmans, but yeah, he brought something new to it for himself as an actor too.
I loved unapologetically leaning into how weird and screwed up this guy should be.
Yeah. And that's different than they've done in
wanna get nuts?
I think so.
Let's
because
get nuts.
even with
that's pretty good.
Every stand-up comedian has a hack Michael Keaton voice buried in their back set.
Honestly, pretty good though.
And I love even that scene. That's him trying to act weird in a different way so that he can act weird but also not give away that he might be weird enough to also be Batman.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a good scene.
And it's the kind of thing that only happens when your director trusts your talent. And Tim Burton trusted Michael Keaton. And you see that.
Yeah.
Are there other major scenes that stand out to you?
In '89? Oh, I used to just fast forward to the museum takeover to
God.
to Party Man, right? To the Prince song. It's not to Bat Dance. I think it's to Party Man.
Yeah.
I
Although
love
I also
that
flip
scene.
that in my head sometimes too.
My brother for Christmas one year when I was really little gave me his. I mean, I know now it's because he got a CD player in his car, but and it wasn't a truly noble gift, Brian. But thanks. But he gave me his.
Brian.
Yeah, he gave me his boombox with the 2 tape decks, and I used to just put it on my shoulder and just walk around and do
like a ruffian.
The whole routine. Yeah.
Like a street tough.
Yeah, like a street tough. Like as they did it, I just did all the choreography and all the blocking.
This is my favorite thing I've ever heard you say about yourself.
Because you're just picturing it.
Yes.
Current Joe.
Like socks on hardwood floor too. So it's just
I feel like we could recreate.
Yeah.
We'll have that for you guys
shoot
next
it.
week on SJU. Any scenes that stand out to you guys? Any specific moments, lines that really make you feel Batman 8090?
Honestly, you want to get nuts is the big one for me.
Should we do it again?
Your turn.
Oh.
Come on.
You want to get nuts? Was it?
Want to get nuts?
Because my usual go-to is Bart Simpson, so that's the only voice I could do.
Actually, you're pretty good as well. I would give it a try, but you guys put me to shame.
No.
Ken, is that your line too? Is that the one?
No, Bob, this town needs an enema.
No, my God.
Oh yes.
Everything, but I'm such a fan of Nicholson's Joker, and I don't think you need to choose between Ledger and Nicholson, by the way. You can enjoy both performances
Yeah,
for
they're
what they
completely
are.
different performances.
No way.
The Joker. I love the Bond comparison because the
Yeah.
Joker's the same way.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Totally.
Yeah, everybody's got
You
their
can
Joker.
even enjoy Jared Leto's. I don't care, but Nicholson.
I mean, I care about that
again.
a lot.
That was, and going back to what you were saying, Vanessa, of similar to the success of Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings. It was like we're taking wizards and dragons and dwarfs who get tossed, and we're treating it as real.
Yeah.
Which is also one of the successes of Star Wars. Nicholson shows up and is like, yeah, I'm Jack Nicholson, man, and I'm going to treat this crazy over-top character as that, but also very real, and it stood out.
At the time, during the campaign, there was bat symbols all around, and it's actually really cool because Eric Goldman sent us an image that he took when he was a kid during the
my
campaign
God.
for
Oh,
this
sweet.
in Times Square. I want to check this out because I can't believe he took this.
Oh, yeah.
That's so cool.
Look at
Picturing
that
him as
Howard
a little
Johnson
kid.
Also,
cocktail
significantly
restaurant
less LEDs than exist now.
Yeah. Oh, and look up top. Suntory
Suntory
Times,
whiskey,
baby.
Suntory Times.
Yeah, what are
Okay.
the other things around it? I didn't even. All I could see was this bat symbol.
Foster's, Australian for
Howard
beer.
Johnson's.
We got a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
But that is.
Do you remember seeing this bat symbol around town?
It was like Batman was coming. Like and it was June 23rd. So the school year was ending in June, and it was me and my friends. It was like one of the things we're going to do for graduating junior high because life's on the upswing. We're going to see Batman. And I can't remember exactly when Dick Tracy had come out, but that was equally as exciting. But this one it was all people talked about during that summer. It was transformative.
Yeah.
I wonder why there aren't more campaigns like this today now that we have a lot more mediums to be flashy and whatnot. I feel like something simple like this would stand out if we went back to doing just the Batman symbol again.
Yeah.
Or whatever version of that.
I don't know. Are we so oversaturated now that if Hellboy tried to do this, everyone would kind of go, Really? Hell, okay.
I think it depends on if the movie ends up good. Like if because Batman '89 is so loved, this totally worked. If it was a flop and there had been these all over town, then the next day you see like graffiti on them. They're ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Well, and we've seen campaigns like it since, so it doesn't have like that awe that it has the first time that it's happening. Because in this case, it's just like, what, a comic book? It's a movie, and now even non-comic book movies have done campaigns like that. Like I remember when Forgetting Sarah Marshall was coming out, there were fake breakup letters on billboards everywhere. So it's been a campaign that, while it's really cool, it's been done enough times that you almost have to pull back and go more subtle for it to work.
Yeah, I agree.
I also, and I know that this isn't necessarily accurate, but I also feel like I remember as a child that 3 movies came out a year. And only 3.
I feel like that too.
And you found out about them when you were in the lobby for the previous movie. Look at the poster.
What's happening?
They're making another
you saw the
Batman.
stand. Yeah.
The only person who didn't was Dan, because I swear he came out of the womb knowing all movies that were coming
He came out with a
Accurate.
subscription to Premiere Magazine in his hand already.
100%. Ken, you were mentioning that you don't have to compare Nicholson to Ledger, that you're allowed to like both of them. But I do want to ask you guys, because it is Fan Friday, this question is coming from Jamie Campbell. In your opinion, what makes up a fascinating villain? Who are some of your favorite cinematic villains and why? So even if you don't have to compare, what is it that makes a great villain? And do you guys have any favorites, whether it is from Batman universe or otherwise? Joe?
I think it's such a weird, gross answer sometimes, I feel like. But I feel like
Oh,
it's
no.
the connection you have with the villain.
Yeah.
Like, I think with
That wasn't
Nick...
gross.
Sometimes it feels like it because they suck. They're villains. But, like, I think with Nicholson's Joker... He's having like so much fun. Like, it's time to give this town an enema. Bob, you're my number one guy. Like, he's having so much fun that you're just kind of like,
Beauty and the Beast.
Man.
If everyone else calls you the Beast, I'll rip their tongues
yeah,
out.
oh god, it's so good. And like, there's just like a charisma where you're kind of like, I love this. Like, this dude's fun.
Yeah.
And then with Ledger, it's more how dangerous he is almost starts to make you root for him. Like, I think I've told the story on camera before, but when the first time we saw Dark Knight, there was like there was such a huge pop in the audience for the magic trick. You won't see him pop the pencil in the eye, and then you immediately like heard it pull back almost. I've never been a part of a theatrical audience where I felt something like that happen, where everyone was like, "Oh, that was amazing." Okay, just realized what I just reacted
What
to,
did I just
and
root
like,
for?
and like that's those are the villains that somehow you connect with them on like a weird personal level.
Yeah, like for me, a lot of what I fell in love with the DC universe, as much as I like its heroes, were its villains, because the DC universe has amazing villains. And
Better than Marvel's in a lot of cases, I think.
I actually agree, and I think a big reason for that is a villain that you can kind of see where they're coming from a little bit, where they kind of make you agree with them for a second, but it's like, no, your methods are terrible.
Or you took it too far.
Or you took it too far. And like outside of the DC universe, like an example for like why we love a good villain is Scar from The Lion King. Because it's like, all right, he has a point, and he's got a great voice, and that song is catchy, and oh my god, I've agreed with the villain way too much. He just...
We should be prepared.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, what do you think, Ken?
I absolutely echo what Vanessa said, because that's, I think, in general, on a big, theory level, it should be some truth to what they're putting out there, and even though, and that should also challenge you, like, whoa, wait a minute, what am I... There's some things about Emperor Palpatine I like. Oh, that should not be good. Like, he should make you think about that. And the Joker has that overall. Heath Ledger, I go to the scene all the time when he's like holding Batman over the edge of the skyscraper, and is like, you got to introduce a little chaos.
Yeah.
Soldiers die. No one questions it. But and it's like, you're like, oh yeah,
God.
he's right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Doesn't mean you're on their side, but it means you kind of can pull into it there. It works, I think, a lot of ways in wrestling too, with heels and what that means.
Yeah.
It's not always that simple, but it's fun. I could go into layers upon layers of why Kylo Ren works as probably one of the best villains in Star Wars, because his parents did neglect him, and his uncle treated there's so many things.
Did you write a book on Star Wars
might
or something?
have, but and it makes it fun. It makes it interesting
Yeah.
versus and. Sometimes it's okay just to be evil, but that's not dynamic.
Well, I think that's why Black Panther touched such an interesting nerve, is
Yes.
because people were like, whoo, relatable. And, so
Yeah.
many people looked at that, oh, Killmonger's right. And it's like, no, that's not what anyone's saying. It's that...
He's got a point.
He's got some points. He's going about his things terrible, but like in the core, there's something where you're like, I see where this very poisonous garden grew, what seed it grew out of, like Magneto. Like Magneto's the same.
It's exactly that, because it's those moments where it's like, how far am I from being a villain?
Mm-hmm.
What in life pushed them to get there? What has the potential to push me to?
Mm-hmm.
They say,
Exactly.
but they say as an actor that you're not supposed to judge your character.
Yeah.
So for exactly that, you're supposed to look at the character and see, okay, but why is this character right? Why are we?
Yeah.
And I think the best villains do that. But it is an interesting argument, especially when it comes to Batman and Batman's villains, because there's some Batman villains that we know a ton about their backstory, and it makes it heartbreaking, like a Mr. Freeze or somebody where you feel for what they've gone through, and it makes you see their side, even though you know they're the villain, they took the wrong path. But somebody like the Joker, people have argued against knowing his backstory for a long time, like we even see in The Dark Knight, which we'll speak about in a little bit, but people don't want to know. Now with the Joker movie coming out, being an origin story, do you guys feel like it's okay to know about all of these villains' past to help get to know them, or do you feel like some villains should not be touched?
Well, I think he'll continue to have infinite pasts. Joker's interesting to me because I think the appeal to the Joker for a lot of people is sort of a dangerous appeal because we don't know anything about him, because he is like that agent of chaos. He's almost like something you could put on for a minute or dip your toe in and go, oh, that's interesting. Lighting the big stack of money on fire. Like, oh, and there's like a lot of danger to that. But he's, we talk about like Bella Swan in Twilight or something like that, sort of being like a character you can project onto, or like Neo in the Matrix being an everyman that you can project on. Like, I think the Joker is the same way for horrible reasons, in the same way that like a lot of people like the Purge movies. They like the Joker.
He's the gleeful nihilism that we feel when we're stuck in traffic and we just want to like abandon our car and burn it all down.
You've thought about that before.
The amount of times I'm like, I don't like this car this much.
This morning.
Let's set it on fire. This morning, every morning. It's any of those moments where you're just kind of like, all right, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, but what is the point? And he echoes that out of you, and it like you said, it's that feeling of wanting to kind of dip your toe into it for a little bit and be like, what if I just abandoned everything and embraced chaos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that idea. Chaos is a ladder, is it not? Yeah. As far as like,
Oh God.
Sometimes
What have
a little.
Chaos
is a ladder.
And this is his origin story.
It is. Look, like I like a lot of mystery, but I think like with the Joker, like I love Heath Ledger's origin. His own lines keep changing and how he got the scars, all those kind of things. We know a lot with Nicholson's, obviously, and how it ties into Batman's past, but that's kind of interesting in its own right. I'm interested to see what they can do with the complete Joker origin story, because it doesn't mean, to me, a personal take, that it doesn't mean that we are excusing everything. It's just a case study in how he got there. And like Vanessa said, again, great point. Like when you're watching it, like, ooh, am I 2 clicks away from that myself?
Yeah.
That's part of what this art's all about. And so I'm not opposed to origin stories, but sometimes it's fun just not to know.
Sometimes the mystery is great. Sometimes where did you come from? Why are you? It's why I like a lot of like, I'd say half of the Universal monsters are like, I don't want to know where you came from. I just
Monster.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just
Just
need
be
to
a monster.
How did you get here is what JT and I ask ourselves every time we're at a drive-through looking at our food. Like, we just don't need to know sometimes.
Yeah.
We're just going to
How did I
dive
get
in.
How do we get to this rally?
I knew that Wendy's would come back up. I knew that we'd bring fast food back up. Let's talk about other Batman iterations, because we've had a ton of them at this point, going through the first kind of era of Batman films between Batman 89, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. Do you guys have a favorite? Joe, you kind of teased us with a little bit of yours.
Yeah, I mean, Returns is my favorite movie. I just think it's a great Batman movie, and it's a great Tim Burton movie.
God,
Michelle
DeVito.
Pfeiffer, like, and DeVito, like, just deliver. Like, they're so awesome. They really go to work in the movie, even though the Penguin is not the Penguin from the comics, and it's very much Burton being like, but what if this? Like, he just plays it to the hilt. It has a themed gang. That's very important to Batman mythos.
I love a themed gang.
The Red Triangle Gang is one of my favorite villainous things ever put to screen. Dan brought this up in the writer's room one day, and for those of you who are like, I wish we could just see the writer's room for one day, it's normally very quiet, but
I walk in there and it's like somebody has died there, all in their own little world.
But every now and then we'll actually speak about things, and we were sort of laughing about the like, it was post Captain Marvel, I think, and sort of laughing about the idea of like, now they're just dropping feminism into movies, like Batman Returns, dude.
Selena Kyle's whole arc meant more to me as an adult than it did as a kid because of just all the stuff that I had to go through to get there.
Yeah, can you imagine if today, like, they put out Batman Returns and she said any of the things she says in that movie? Like,
conniptions would be had.
Yeah, multiple conniptions.
But I wonder if it would be in a good way. Like, I wonder if there's any chance that it.
There's never
Roxy.
in a good way on the internet.
Yeah, I guess so. Ken, what's your favorite?
Out of these ones, I'd go Batman '89. Batman Returns is up there for me too. Obviously, Forever and Batman and Robin are different, and I think that's just an example of someone looking at the surface and going, "Oh, this is about this." It's super, and forgetting the core and the art that Burton brought to it. That happens a lot in some other things too.
There's something so funny too about like McDonald's and everyone else who was very concerned about toy sales being like, hey guys, we really feel like this story about a broken rich man who beats the snot out of people every night as a way to get his parents back, like, isn't selling enough toys to children.
Fast food returns. Told you guys. Another McDonald's.
Well, that's what it was. Like, that's
I know.
why Schumacher had to put so many black lights in those movies, is because McDonald's was like, we were uncomfortable selling Happy Meal toys of Batman or of Penguin and Catwoman,
and the business of the business.
But the whole concept of Batman is like, you shouldn't market this to kids to begin with. This is not good.
Vanessa, are you a Batman Returns girl? That's your favorite?
I'm absolutely a Batman Returns girl. I love Batman Returns. That entire opening scene where you like first see him come out and he like uses the Batmobile before he even steps out to like take on those clowns. But like, the thing that resonated with me more as an adult was like, as a kid, I was like, yeah, Batman. And then after like I worked my first few jobs and I had some terrible bosses and I was just like an assistant several times over, seeing that scene where Selena Kyle is like talked down to and she's holding that teapot and she's just like scolding herself for even like daring to open her mouth, and then seeing her become Catwoman, right to the face. It resonates so much.
Corn dog.
I feel similarly, though.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. Before we move on to the animated series, just a quick vote. Should Batman have nipples? Yes? No? Okay, moving forward.
There's a world for it. There's a world for it.
That's how we get bat milk.
That's
I'm so sorry.
It's a personal choice. Personal choice. Talking about the animated series, a lot of people, if you ask them today, who is your Batman, they will say Kevin Conroy. This is a voice that has been voicing Batman for many, many years and does an excellent job with it. Are you guys animated series fans? Do you pop in every once in a while, rewatch an episode? Did you watch the whole thing when it was on? Yes, and yeah.
I love the animated series because it's not even just the voice, but the actual animation style itself. Like, if you look at every single title card for every single episode of the animated series, it's not, this is an episode of television, this is an epic, this is a story we're about to tell. It feels so timeless.
Talk about holding up. For me, this show majorly holds up.
Absolutely.
I think best animated series of all time, if you had to press me on it. Joe, big animated person? Oh, no.
When Robotech exists,
Sorry.
stop, Roxy.
I'm so sorry, Ken. I can. Say it back.
Ken and Rick Hunter got
Joe,
some
what do
words
you
for
think? Big animated
right?
series?
Rick Hunter? Okay, yeah, sorry. My Robotech is shaky.
Wow, how dare you?
Batman the Animated Series is one of my favorite examples of creators spinning limitations into wins. And this is another reason why I think more big movies should get their budgets slashed. Because one of the reasons Batman the Animated Series has the color palette it does is because for budget reasons, like they were animating on like leftover Tiny Toons art and drawing on black paper, and so that's why like it has the color.
It's so rich.
The color grade that it does, and the color choices were all because like this is what we have.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what went into the artistic choices for the show.
It forces you to be creative when you are in a box like that.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that's so cool. The acting choices for the gig. I remember reading an interview where they just sat and watched Mark Hamill just like figuring it out in his audition and like slowly like sliding into it and nailing it, and them just being like, there's no way Luke Skywalker will take this gig, but this is the guy, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, he just nails it. I didn't even know that was Luke Skywalker for years as a kid.
Yep.
Because
Well, that's not the
Not a
kind of
clue.
thing you think about when you're.
It was
Right,
also
yeah,
it was
yeah.
different at that time. Now these voiceover people are stars now, not as big as maybe they should be even, but like you didn't know. It was
Right.
like
Yeah.
poor Mark Hamill, he didn't do anything for Star Wars. He's just probably the favorite Joker for many people.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
didn't know.
I didn't think about voiceover acting in general a lot until I started dating my wife, because she's a huge voiceover nerd. Yeah, like
I was really big into it.
yeah, it's something I was just
so
watching
you
her.
knew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I learned it a little bit later, but I was hugely into it because like two of my favorite villains are people that people assume did nothing with their careers after a while, and it's like no, they were incredible villains because you have Mark Hamill as a Joker, and then you have James Avery as Shredder. And
Yeah. Yeah,
who-
yeah.
everyone's like, what happened after Fresh Prince? And I was like, Shredder.
Yeah, Shredder happened.
That'll
Look
shut
at
him
his
up.
entire filmography afterwards, and it's been largely done by voice acting, or like Will Friedle after Boy Meets World. Everyone's like, oh, he fell off the map, and I'm like,
Nah,
no, look
he
at
just went into a booth.
he just went into a booth and became several of the most iconic characters of our childhood. So
I feel like at this
Yeah.
point, though, everybody knows that Mark Hamill's voiced the Joker.
Yeah.
When do we think that? Well, you
It
look at
just
me
changed
like,
when pop culture changed.
Yeah.
When it went up to, so I didn't watch the series a lot. I was a little, obviously a little older. I was in radio. I was more worried about spinning the gin blossoms than watching the
Heck
show.
yeah.
But so
Hey, jealousy.
Hey, jealousy.
see?
Point being, during that, it just wasn't, the emphasis wasn't there. The information wasn't there. We are
Yeah.
now so surrounded with this stuff.
If you want to know, you just look it up.
You just look it up. There was a time where you could watch wrestling and tune in like, whoa, did you know so-and-so came back? Now I know 3 months in advance that his contract's being negotiated. It wasn't as prevalent. I had one of my best friends knew this and was a big fan and loved the show, but it wasn't as... These kind of shows didn't exist. I'm glad they do, but this was just what we did at the
Well,
lunch
now
table.
we have great tools like the Fandom app available on Google Play and iOS.
Hey, with that bell, he was on top of it. I see you, Ryan. Let's go to the Nolan trilogy. This being my absolute favorite, and I think mostly because of the age that I'm at and how often I was watching these, and this being like right when I was super afraid to be nerdy. This being so popular was really helpful for me in 2005 when I was able to be like, oh no, wait, it's cool to like Batman. This is something that people aren't going to make fun of me for. But in the Nolan trilogy, I know a lot of people, The Dark Knight will be their favorite. Any different favorites across the table, though?
Begins, man.
I love Begins.
There's so much
yours
good
too?
in Dark Knight, and it bothers me when like film discussion just turns into, oh, you don't like The Dark Knight, and it's like I didn't say that. I think it's carried largely by Ledger, and then there's a lot of stuff that falls off for me. The philosophical two-boat experiment and Harvey. Blah blah blah. But I think Begins is. And again, another artistic challenge, doing something out of your comfort zone and out of your wheelhouse. And Christopher Nolan, a director like Christopher Nolan, having to do a Gotham that still feels a little more comic booky and has to do a movie about ninjas, that's really interesting to me.
Right when it came out, did you love Begins, or it's after the trilogy was done that you realized how much you loved it?
Oh, I loved Begins from the first trailer I saw, where I was like, "Oh, he's training as an assassin, and that's how he got his gauntlets." Dope! Like I was so on
That was
board.
really cool
I was
detail.
so on board. Yeah, I thought that was just a fantastic movie. I really, really, really loved it. was super. Still walked out at the end like, "She gave him a Joker card." Ah! Like felt like a little kid again. And that's why I really like that one. There's just something cool to me about a director having to dip their toe into something that normally wouldn't be, what they do. I don't picture Christopher Nolan like putting on his scarf as perfectly as possible and being like, well, now then, what are we going to do to film the ninjas today? Like that's fun to me.
Yeah.
Ken, was that your favorite as well? You made a big smile.
It is now. It is now.
Not at the time?
Dark Knight is so big that it's hard to, at the time, it was hard to be like, that's the greatest thing of all time. And then you kind of look at it later, and then you start to look back at the smaller things, which happens. It's like the band that you love that suddenly gets real big. You're like, yeah, man, but that first album is cool. And it's not just being cynical or trying to, I like the thing that other people don't like. It's okay for these things to be big and popular. Dark Knight Rises, I still prefer over the first Avengers, and I used to get burned at the stake for it. But I like going back. It's like season 8 of Game of Thrones is actually one of my favorite seasons of Game of Thrones. But I love going back to 1 and 2 because they had 1/3 the budget, and they had to concentrate on these kind of things, and they could. And it was smaller, and it was fun, and looking back, Batman Begins is my favorite now.
What about you, Vanessa?
God, it's so weird because it changes every year, and I've started to realize, and this doesn't take away or add to it, but it's so interesting that the trilogy, I feel like, works best for me when I consider it all together than when I take it down to its individual parts.
Kind of like a TV show?
It almost works like a TV show for me, or like a miniseries. Because, like, if I think about just Batman Begins on its own, I'm like, I love it, but it feels like a preamble. And when I think about The Dark Knight Rises, it's one of those where it's like, well, I love it because I had this context for me. And same with The Dark Knight Rises. And it's not taking away or adding to it. It's just interesting because I can't think of them individually because it's such a big, completed, they don't really exist without the other because they set each other up so well kind of thing for me. Like, I'd say The Dark Knight is probably the one where I can, like, maybe take out and watch on its own the easiest, because if I just watch Batman Begins, I'm like, this is setting up and I need to see what it's setting up for. But yeah, for me, they all click together like a mini series. It's really interesting how, even with the time apart, they flow so cohesively together.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Moving forward to the Lego Batman movies, because this is a completely different tone than all the other Batmans we've seen. I think people were a little nervous about this, but overall critically received very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of these. Does anybody have any qualms with Lego Batman?
No, people ask all the time why we haven't done the honest trailer for it, and it's because it is one. Like, it's an honest
very
trailer for
self-aware.
Batman. Yeah, there's nothing to really say or do, even more so than Deadpool. Like, Deadpool's very meta, but, like, Lego Batman is just like, let's just take every little scrap and point at it.
Everything's been turned over. Everything has been looked at. Everything has been examined in it. It's both like, it's both its own honest trailer and a love letter all at once, where it's like, it's the kind of thing that you can only find when you've watched something over and over and over again. Because anytime somebody's like, oh, you found plot holes, that means you don't really like that thing. And it's like, no, I found them because I watched it 20 times.
Yeah, because I'm obsessed with it. Like,
and that's where the humor in that comes from.
Yeah.
Agreed. Which leads us to now, which we have a very interesting Batman situation going on currently in the worlds of DC, also known as DCEU. They still haven't picked an official name for whatever it is, so whatever. We can call it whatever we want. We have two different Batmans going on at the same time. We've got Batfleck, and now we will be having Robert Pattinson. Of the Batman movies with Batfleck, with his short cameo in Suicide Squad, him in BVS, and in Justice League, do you guys think that Batfleck made his mark in a great way? Do you love his Batman?
I did.
But then?
I'll always... No, actually I have no... Well, sure, the material around him I did not love. But... I always go back to when Keaton was cast, and you can find old interviews and stuff online where people are like, this guy's Batman? Batman's 270. Batman's 6'4". Batman could, like, throw you through a wall, bro. And I was kind of like, no, Keaton was great. But then Batfleck came in and was like, no, I am the 270, 6'4", I flip tires in my spare time guy that will throw you through walls. And he did that Batman really well. That was a Batman we haven't gotten to see. Like, I hope that guy, look up Michael Keaton casting reactions online. It's so many local news reports of just like furious nerds, and they're incredible. But I hope those guys were happy when they saw that Batman come on screen and just murder dudes. I think some of them start to bleed together for me. I think it's BVS where he like pops in and just like basically just brutalizes those 8 dudes because he's rescuing Martha. He's saving Martha.
Don't say her name around me. I can't hear it anymore.
Great scene, and I think I think Affleck is. Maybe it's a little meta because he is himself very exhausted, it seems, but he does a really good job doing the Batman who's been doing this for a while, like getting a little too old for this shit. And I really liked him.
There was a poll that just came out that ranked all the Batman. And they were, Clooney was ranked above Ben Affleck. How do you guys feel about that?
No, yeah, I'm a Clooney guy, man. I go to the Smokehouse hoping to run into him in Studio City.
Me too.
You go see Marvin sing on Friday nights?
I do actually.
He's the best.
Oh
Marvin
my God,
Robinson.
I love Marvin.
What's happening? Invite us.
We go to the same weird steakhouse and try and run into George Clooney.
I see it on my ride home.
Yeah.
Has it happened yet for either?
Has not happened for me. I've seen character actor Mike Starr there a lot. No. It's nothing against George. Nothing against George. It just, I think I'm less invested in the modern DC stuff, to be fair, and to disclose that. But I just think Affleck did what he was told and didn't just paint the numbers, just brought to what you're describing. And what was around him. Maybe it isn't his fault, and maybe he was exhausted. Ben's been exhausted for a while. Poor guy. So I don't fault him for that. Ranking's a weird thing to get into. It's an actor doing a job, but clearly it's Val Kilmer.
Like, if you take away all of the elements around him and you just isolate his Batman and specifically his Bruce Wayne performance on his own, kind of like what you were saying, his Bruce Wayne performance on its own, I feel like if you just fast forwarded that by about 40 years, we get straight to the Batman we see at the beginning of Batman Beyond. That's who he is. He's on the road to being that Batman. That exhausted beginning of the show, someone break in, realizing, oh my God, I've come to my wit's end, I can't be this person anymore. He's on his road to being that Batman, which I found really interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that, I think going back, Ken, to what you were talking about, even George Clooney is not impressed by George Clooney's Batman. So,
which is one of the reasons I love George Clooney.
Yeah, he's like, kind of botched
And
that.
his love for the Smokehouse
His love
cheese
for the
toast.
smoke.
Brought it back to George.
They call it the world
Smokehouse.
famous cheese toast, and they ain't lying.
Famous for a reason.
You know how I feel about
powdery
cheese. Why are
somehow.
you doing this to me?
I'm sorry for your
I don't
loss.
want your cheese.
They
I don't
ship it
want
around
it.
the world.
Moving forward, though, Robert Pattinson, he will be playing Batman in the Batman coming up in 2021. If you guys could pick one thing that you want to see from this character, one thing either that we have seen in the past and you want to be part of him, or that we haven't seen yet, what would that thing be? Vanessa, any thoughts on a future? What are we calling him? Patman? Pattinson?
That is so cute.
One of those.
I
I
like
can see the
cute little
Funko Pop
portmanteau.
already.
Yeah.
I know. I love cute little portmanteau nicknames. I think the thing that I want to see the most out of this is I've seen really, really good Batmen. I feel like with Spider-Verse this year, I finally saw the perfect portrayal of Hero and Alias, where both of them are just at 100%, and with a lot of characters where who they are in the case of like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and in the case of Batman, Bruce Wayne, there's always one person who does a little bit better on one than they do on the other aspect, and I just want that marriage, because a lot of the times when I see a great Batman, I see a lacking Bruce Wayne. When I see a great Bruce Wayne, I see a lacking Batman.
Sure.
And I want both, and because they almost feel like they're working against each other, and I want to see that.
Ken, what do you want?
That's great stuff, Vanessa. The tension of those two playing that out. What do I want? I just want this guy to be happy, and I'm excited for him. Because I'll tell you what, I'm not super invested in Batman right now. I have to disclose that and be honest. I have to, study Star Wars for my job 14 hours a day, which is a great thing. But
You can buy the book now.
But just beyond that, I going back again, I joke, but I was there during the Keaton, stuff. Dream Team's one of my favorite comedies. And like, the guy from Dream Team's Batman now? This guy is a professional actor who got one big role that changed his life, and I hate to see when people are pigeonholed into something that has nothing to do with them, just with the circumstances. And I think he's got the chops. I think he's got the look. I'm excited to see it. And if a director and a studio can put their faith in him, it might not work. Things sometimes don't work, and that's fine.
It happens.
I want to see him rise above what was going to be the backlash, regardless.
Sure.
Whoever was cast, it's going to be. This is time is a circle. You see, it comes around. Joe.
Oh yeah.
I want to see him just bring his own stamp to this. I love what you said about the tension. These are two characters fighting each other almost.
Yeah.
It's the tension of Vader. Vader's greatest adversary is Anakin, constantly his whole life, and I want to see that played out. That's a great point.
Thank you.
Joe?
Well, for one thing, I'm excited that it doesn't seem like he has to also be under the pressure of like, but how does this construct into a massive shared universe? Since it seems like they're just kind of going like, let's just make good movies for now and kind of see where that goes. Maybe it's the Joker in me, but part of me really wants to see just what would happen. Just what would happen if DC was like, you know what we need to get back to, just like with BNR, we need to get back to that Adam West feel. And if they just if they just had our Pats go full camp,
Just a loose mess.
Maybe I just want to see the world burn. But when the first new Batman trailer drops from Matt Reeves, if it's just full like
Spinning title.
Great Gadzooks, I want this.
God, that would be just watching the
What a
world
Joe
explode around
answer.
us would be so good.
Such a Joe answer. Oh boy. Well, before we get to one or two fan questions, because it is Fan Friday, I just wanted to let you guys know that Fandom Entertainment is dope. Yes, that is right. It is dope. Do you guys want to hear more conversations like this? Then make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell. Oh, I see him texting. He can't do it. What happened, Ryan? Oh, I set you up for it.
There it is.
Hit that bell. Oh, so
He hit
close.
it with his phone. He's so talented.
Oh God!
See, he's been using a bell app, and you know,
I don't like the app.
you roll the dice when you introduce media into a bit. You know, it just
Ken
it
already
is what
said
it is.
sometimes things just don't work. You
right.
know,
That's
so
right.
that's what we
Get
learned
back
with
to
this.
Twilight, you vampire.
Get 5 tries a week.
Yeah, and still we're not there. But I also wanted to tell you guys that Fandom Uncovered is out. Joe, want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah. So the first episode of Fandom Uncovered has been officially released. We did a soft launch, sort of sneak preview for you guys a little while back, and then launched it wide last week. This is one of our new babies. I know y'all love movie fights, and but you gotta
awesome.
evolve. You gotta evolve
Yeah.
to survive, and
Darwin.
we've been really excited about this. It came out so well. Roth took one of our producers, Max, up to Forks, Washington, where they were literally just going to do something different. Like I think they were just kind of going up to shoot like a 10-minute Screen Junkies show bit.
They were just like, they literally just thought that was interesting.
We just
But
thought
they
it would be
fell
kind of
in
cool to go.
love
Well, they found this whole
with these
story of
people.
like this festival saved this town from the recession.
Oh my God.
And it's such a cool story, and it's unlike anything we've ever done before. I've already seen about 5 minutes of the next episode, and it's also just awesome. Like it, comment on it, give it some love, share it around, show it to folks. I think it's something like we haven't done, but I think it's the kind of stuff we've always wanted to be able to get out of the box and do and push towards. So thank you guys so much for showing some love to it.
That's awesome. I can't wait for people to catch on to this because it's so wonderful what they've done.
Yeah, this Power Levels, which you were knocking it out of the park on.
This is Power Levels.
It was
Did I
like I
nail
was
it?
there. It was
Thank
like
you
I was
so
there.
much. Let's get to some fan questions. Yeah. Nobody wants to do dance? That's fine.
I'm dancing. This is how I dance.
That's fine.
This is what I do.
Like,
This is what happens when Shake It Off starts playing at
like
the
dog
wedding.
with itchy butt.
You know
Yeah.
who's refusing to dance? Ken Napzok. Ken
No, I'm
Napzok
not.
will
I'm just
not
saying-
dance.
I just-
Itchy butt dog, let the kids out.
We only have time for a couple of these, but I want to make sure we get to some of them. So this one's coming from Jason Georges. Do you think it's Georges or Gorgeous?
Georges George.
George. In honor of the 40th anniversary of Alien, what are some of your favorite sci-fi horror films? Vanessa, what you got for us?
Right off the bat, one of my absolute favorites that I feel like is pretty much on everybody's list, and then they think about it like, oh, duh, is The Thing. I watch it over and over again, like once a year, just because it has both elements so perfectly. Because there's the actual like sci-fi element, which is what is the creature, where did it come from? Let's learn about its logic a little bit. Let's figure out how it operates, and then just the horror element of turning against your fellow man because you don't know the nature of the beast. But what I want to highlight, just because I don't think people are that familiar with it, and they might be now that Mandy's popular, is Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Which I had never heard of.
That is the common response to Beyond the Black Rainbow. There it is.
Where can you find it?
It's actually on Shudder right now.
Okay.
It's gorgeous.
I love that you knew the answer.
Straight to it, because I can't stop watching it. It's like my go-to for when I just want to like look at something incredible. If you like Stranger Things, I feel like a lot of the elements in Stranger Things are echoed from Beyond the Black Rainbow. Right down to its soundtrack, right down to like the girl with mysterious powers element. It's gorgeous, and if you liked Mandy, absolutely check out Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Ken?
I was going to answer Arachnophobia, but technically it's not categorized as sci-fi horror, but I don't know. It's pretty horrifying to me, and I would like science to destroy spiders.
And smart spiders are sci-fi.
Yeah. So there, that one scared me. But I'm going to say They Live, John Carpenter's movie with the late great Roddy Piper. I love it for a lot of reasons. I could see this being remade, rebooted in this modern era, but I think you just can turn on the TV and see the same thing. So I just love this one.
All right, Joe.
Another thing I want to... The cool thing about They Live, too, is it's similar to The Shining, where you can find 1,000 different people that have 1,000 different like opinions on what it means and what they're trying to tell you. And it's such a good movie.
Just turn on the TV and watch the original Kids.
Exactly. We're all out of bubble gum. I got to go Event Horizon, man.
Ooh.
Oh, this terrible movie.
It's gorgeous.
It's
I have
right,
never seen this movie.
Really? You've never seen Event Horizon?
Talk to me, Goose.
It's right in my wheelhouse of derelict spaceship, weird Cthulhu-esque horror, and one of my other favorite horror subtropes, religion horror, like The Conjuring and not even The Conjuring so much, but like stuff that gets real Old Testament. And, well, I guess my first example was going to be Stigmata, which is not Old Testament in the slightest. But, stuff with like, oh, man, here's an angel that was probably guarding the Garden of Eden, and now he's murdering, stuff like that. And this is just all of those at once. It's a derelict spaceship that went to hell, so it's haunted with weird demons, and it's so fun. And Sam Neill is just like chewing scenery as this weird possessed guy. It's a delight.
Love that. For me, anybody who watches How I Met Your Mother, I will use this analogy. I've eaten a lot of sandwiches in my life, which means that sometimes I don't remember things past the most recent 5 years of movies that I love. So anytime we answer any of these questions, I pick something very recent.
Oh, good.
So right now, my favorite one of these would be A Quiet Place. I absolutely loved it. And I don't know about all time, but I think it was so refreshing.
Yeah.
Very different than anything we've seen in a while. Couldn't be more excited that we've got the same creative team going into the second one, and I think it's just excellent. I can watch this movie on repeat, mostly because it doesn't bother anybody around me because it's very quiet.
I accidentally brought an apple as a snack to the theater when I went to go see that movie.
Oh no! But you knew what it was called.
Oh.
I don't know why. I was like, there's got to be like some kind of sound element to it. And I'm sitting there with this apple for 45 minutes, like, nothing? When can I have my first bite? So I was like timing it with stuff happening where it was just like crunch, and then I'd wait.
At least you didn't do it anyway. I'm proud of you. It's impressive. One more before we go. This will be a quick one because I'm curious from you guys. It means a lot to me, and I need to know your answers. It's coming from FN64 Production.
We're getting into this. Okay.
I'm kind of nervous right now. You guys should be too at home. Does pineapple belong on pizza? Love the show. Keep it up.
Yes.
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 What
Whoa.
has happened?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you a no?
Unequivocally, yes.
I'll even say sometimes apples. Chicken brie green apple is delicious on a pizza.
What just happened?
Right?
Yeah.
I know.
Did we lose her?
I'm a
Teach me.
monster.
No,
I'm a
I
monster.
don't know. I'm interested. I'm listening.
It's
You're a
basically-
villain, but I agree with the seed of where you went wrong.
This is my Joker moment, where it's just like nothing matters and there's no definition of anything, and break all the rules. Monoliths aren't real. Kill your gods.
Wow. Wow.
And when it comes to a pizza, sometimes maybe I just want a big panini that I could just eat with one hand. And there's fruit, so be it.
This is saying a lot about you. I'm still waiting for my match, and when I find this person, I do not care who they are. This will be the person I marry. I don't like cheese. I love pizza, so I need somebody who understands that. That means we could do like a chicken pesto, but no cheese in the pesto. A barbecue chicken, tomato sauce chicken. I like chicken a lot on pizza. None of the combinations are good with pineapple, though. None, no
pineapple.
cheese, because then you're just having bread and pineapple.
What?
No.
Look, here's the thing. I don't mind if anyone doesn't like pineapple on the pizza. I have a problem with people who fight the concept. The idea of pineapple and Canadian bacon, ham, mixed together, the timeless combo of sweet and sour. Yeah. Why would you deny yourself that kind of beautiful tension coming to play in your mouth as a goal? You're getting tropical. You're getting the Great White North. You're getting Italy pizza. You're getting it all.
It's the girl from Ipanema on a pizza.
I don't
That's
understand.
exactly it.
I do like my green melon wrapped in prosciutto. Is that kind of similar?
It's similar.
Okay, well, now that we've solved all the world's problems with this debate, I think that's all the time we have for fan questions. That's the most serious one. Vanessa, where can the people keep up with you?
You can find me on all forms of social media under @Gritton. Also, check out the horror and cult movie themed sketches that I work on with a team called Night Church. We have a show this Sunday at the Pack Theater. We're giving out free magazines from Fangoria, Popsicles, and we're doing a filmmakers Q&A, so come check it out.
Awesome. Hi, Ken.
Hey, Roxy.
Where can they find you?
Immediately, you can find me at the Schmodown Collision, which is going to be live. Go to schmodownlive.com and Trivia SD to get information. We'll be involved in some stuff there. You can go to kennapzok.com to find out all my shows and information on where to purchase my book, Why We Love Star Wars, The Great Moments That Built the Galaxy Far, Far Away. Thanks for having me.
And Joe, they can find you in your very quiet room.
I'm inconsequential. I'm just a cog in the wheel. So I will. I'll say this: if you want more Batman '89 talk, Billy Business and Ed Greer are going to record an episode of Billy's podcast, Hot Takes with Billy Business, this weekend, and I think that goes up next week. Billy is he's not here today because I was like waiting for him to come in so I could just be like, we're going to talk '89. You want me to tag out? He loves Batman '89 so much.
Oh, that's amazing.
And returns more. I think.
Wow.
More reasons I love Billy.
Right? Yeah.
Billy's the best.
Ed out if they want to check it out.
Yeah. So make sure you check out his podcast when it drops. Buy Ken's book. It's so good. I've read it. It was I'm on public transit read for a little bit, and if something can just make you smile when you're on the train sitting in between four people that are just screaming at whatever god they've invented in their head, you know that's a really good book. So please make sure you buy Ken's book and support it. It's absolutely fantastic.
Interesting standard that you have.
You know, they're not.
That's why I wrote
They're not
it.
the standards I picked. They're the standards that I happen to encounter in my daily life, and I think you are the best in the business.
Well, it's very clear because we are almost at 1 hour on the dot. Professionalism, mic drop, studios fall apart. I'm Roxy Striar. We'll see you guys next time for Screen Junkies Universe.
Joe, you almost brought the roof actually down.